Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, coming to you from the beautiful and historic neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are all about helping families grow closer together, but we know sometimes parents grow apart. Danielle Lindner is our guest today, and her beautiful children's book, Tango, the little turtle whose parents are getting divorced, addresses this important subject. Before Danielle joins us, want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by the last surviving dinosaur, the Tyrannosaurus, written by our friend Stephen Joseph and playfully illustrated by Andy Case. This book tells the story of how the dinosaurs became extinct. And I'm not talking about that meteor thing that you learned in school. The Tyrannosaurus is so very cranky that she makes all the other bigger, meaner dinosaurs disappear. That is, until she comes across the only dinosaur who is immune to her incessant complaining. That's the Tyrannosaurus. These two dinosaurs evolved into humans, and that's where cranky people come from. Throughout this illustrated book, family members and dinosaurs humorously battle to have the best saurus. That's a Yiddish word for big, really big problems, including warts, alligator attacks, brain tumors. I mean, poor cousin Dottie grew an entire forest on her feet. Oi! You're gonna love this book because the best thing of all is that the Tyrannosaurus is not just for cranky kids. As the storyteller says in the end, even and mommy and daddy can be crankosauruses and kvetosauruses sometimes. The book reminds us all to be mindful of when and how often they complain, a lesson from which all readers, young and old, can benefit. The Last Surviving Dinosaur, the Tyrannosaurus by Stephen Joseph, is available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Join us right now from the beautiful state of New Jersey. Some people say New Jersey is a state of mind. Well, it's a cool state of mind. Our guest is the author of Tango, the little turtle whose parents are getting divorced. Please welcome to the show, Danielle Lindner. Danielle, how are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me back.
Yes. Danielle was a guest on my We Choose Respect Parent Cast a while ago, and we're excited to have her back. She's not only an acclaimed children's author, she is also a nationally, if not internationally, respected educator. And we may get into some of that, too, as well. But first, we want to know all about Tango. Please tell us about this beautiful story.
Well, I have a lot of books that deal with issues that kids wrestle with, like in school, in preschool particularly. Going to the doctor or being stressed out, being afraid of the dark, sharing and caring, having school anxiety, separation anxiety rather. But I never wrote a book about divorce because it's not really a topic that we deal with at a preschool or as part of a preschool character education curriculum. Mm-hmm. But it's so many parents saying to me, how can I talk to my child about this? Is there any positive spin to this? How can I, get them to understand it when they're 3 or 4 or 5? Mm-hmm. And I realized even if it's not going to be part of a preschool curriculum, I should write something that parents can use to put in their tool belt, mm-hmm. If they are going through this. And so that's really why it came about.
And, when you mentioned parents having something in their toolbox for, when parents have to go through this, we're not only talking about parents who are actually going through a divorce. We're talking about really almost every family because, maybe it's an aunt and uncle who are getting divorced, or maybe it's grandparents, or maybe it's, your best friend's parents are going through the divorce. This affects kids in many, many different ways.
It does, and they always have questions. And a lot of times it's a topic that parents, they just kind of don't know how to address it, and they don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can just sort of read a story, and answer questions related to that story, I think it helps them. It helps them a little bit get through these difficult things. I mean, I also wrote a book about adoption because that's another touchy subject. Maybe your family is not going through adoption, but there's a child in your class that's adopted, and and they come home and say, "Hey, Bobby's adopted. What does that mean?" Mm-hmm. And sometimes there's just these little tricky things that kids need to know about, and how do we explain it to them in a way that they can understand. So that's really what Tango is about. It's about showing that it is a sad thing, and validating the fact that Tango he's sad, and validating his feelings of being upset, mostly because his parents don't seem happy. Mm-hmm. And he's noticing that as a child. He's noticing that them not being happy. And the parents, they decide that they're going to tell Tango that they're not really happy anymore when they're together, but when they're with him, they are happiest. So they don't want to necessarily live in the same house anymore, but they do want to maintain a family. And the most important part of the story is that they still remain a family in the sense that they're always happy when the three of them are together with Tango. So it's important for kids to realize it's not their fault that parents are getting divorced. It's not their fault that parents maybe don't get along, or that they don't have the same interests anymore. And that the thing that usually ties people together is the child. So, I mean, that's a perfect world. You know, it doesn't always happen that way. Divorce isn't always amicable. Mm-hmm. But this is the way I chose to portray it, at least through my book.
Well, I think you made a good choice, because divorces can get pretty ugly, and
yeah.
I don't think we necessarily want to read something like that to our 3-year-olds. But you bring up one of the points that you brought up that I think we forget about is this is a difficult subject for parents to speak about. And I think one of the things that's hard for parents is to know exactly what they're supposed to say. And by sitting down and reading a book like this together, it gives kids a chance to ask questions. And that way you're not giving kids too much information, or, you're not giving them information that they're not interested in. You're
right.
addressing their needs.
Right. I always feel that when a child comes to you and there's something stressful that's happening in life, whether it's something they saw on the news, or, I mean, that's usually the case, something that they walked into, they saw something on the news. I always say, let them ask the questions first. Mm-hmm. Because, if a child's not asking you about something, some horrific thing, chances are they didn't see it, and it's not in their mind yet, so you don't have to address it. Mm-hmm. Let them ask you, and let's not give them more information than they really need. I think sometimes as parents and teachers, we want to explain everything, and so we might, go a little too far. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you totally. I think it's let the kids ask the questions and then respond to them.
Yeah. As you're speaking, I'm reminded of a moment when I think my kids were in 2nd and 4th grade maybe, and we're sitting down doing the family thing. We're watching American Idol. This is great, a singing competition here, and what could be safer than this? And then the news tease comes on, and tune in 11 to find out what some teenagers were caught doing on the school bus. And it was a little more graphic than that. And I'm like, and the kids turn to me and go, huh? And I will. It's late. We'll talk about this tomorrow. And we did. Right. But you're right. Yeah, you don't want to overwhelm kids. And I think that's the beauty of reading with our kids together, because it's kind of like a key that the kids can use to open themselves up to their parents.
Right. Yeah. And I think, even if you don't have any of this going on in your life, just reading with your kids about different topics and subjects and just exposing them to divergent thinking and questioning, it's only going to help them academically farther down the road as well, socially, emotionally, academically.
Talk, if you could talk, because you are, as I said, you are, respected throughout the United States and probably many other countries as an educator. You created this beautiful daycare program. Talk a little bit more about the power of reading and kind of what we can do beyond just reading the words, how we can really engage our kids in the experience of reading and get the most out of that time we spend together.
Yeah, I think the big word that you use is engagement, engaging them. So there is some studies that are going on now, I think, through Harvard that is showing that it's not just good. It's great to read to your kids, and it's important. It's also great to listen to your kids read, but engaging in an activity that involves literacy will help them to become stronger readers and stronger academically. So what I like to do is give parents specific activities to go along with the books they're reading. So, for example, if you're reading a book about Sophia, who's afraid of the dark, I say to the parents, when you're done reading together, go into a dark room, get a flashlight, show the kids how shadows work, make shadow puppets, do something that really ties in with what you're reading, and that has been shown to really help them to become better readers and just stronger in general academically. So always tie it with some sort of activity rather than just reading the book.
Yeah, I think it makes it more meaningful for the kids because I think sometimes we just read through one book and put it down and pick up another book and it's almost kind of like looking at images flashing on a screen.
It does. It just sort of blends together. And by I think kids are so exposed now to that quickness, like you said, the screen time. So whatever you can do to kind of stretch out that reading activity, stretching it out to doing something else together with your kids where they're not on their computer, they're not on the iPhone or the iPad. Those are the things that we need to try to do. I know it's hard because we're all busy and parents are busy and kids are busy, and it seems like there's just kids have more and more homework and more things to do, and parents have so much work to do. But if you can take 15 minutes, a couple times a week to just do some sort of extra homeschool activity with your kids around a book, it goes a long way. Kids remember those things. They remember the times that they're actually doing something with their parents or caregivers or uncles or aunts or whoever they might be, whoever their family is.
Yeah. One of the things we talk about here in the show is that parents are their kids' first and most important teachers. They may not be the best teachers. They may not be teaching the best lessons, but what we're teaching our kids with the time that we're spending with them or the time we're not spending with them is really going a long way in developing their kids' self-esteem and how they view themselves. And if we take the time to spend time with our kids and make it a priority in our lives, we help them understand that they're a priority and that they're special to us.
Absolutely. It really does. Parents need to realize that giving your kids everything, they have the newest this, they have the newest that. That's great, but nothing can substitute for time. Nothing substitutes for spending actual time with your kids.
That is so important. That there's nothing that we can buy that is more valuable than the time that we give to our kids.
Absolutely not. And sometimes we have to remind our kids of that. I mean, my kids are older now, and I'll say, I'm like, give me. And I'll say sometimes, I need. I said it's a need and a want are two different things. Mm-hmm. And let's just spend some time together. How about that? How about where we're not at a mall, we're not buying something. Let's just do something together that's fun. Let's go to a park, or let's go, walk around a farm, or, just take a walk around the block. Mm-hmm. And it's hard. It's just, we're in this society where everyone wants the newest, latest, and greatest, but time you can't get it back. And we have to work on, teaching our kids the importance of time spent with their parents.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah.
And their grandparents. And their, when the grandparent calls and says, I want to do something with you and spend some time with you, I think it's important for parents to say, go have fun, enjoy it, take it, they're not going to be here forever, Mm-hmm. Take advantage of this, even if it's not to take you to the mall to buy you a new iPhone.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now I have a niece that I talk about here on the show a ton. And, one of the things we love to do is to just go skating together. And
that's so nice.
Just to go out on the ice and skate, and she can make fun of the fact that I can't skate all that well, and she's a much better skater than I am. But it's just that time, they know that you're busy. They know that you're important to other people. But when you take that time to say, I'm here with you. There's no one else around. No one else matters right now but you and the time we're spending together. That's so huge in a kid's life.
It really is. Yeah. It really is. I agree.
Tell me how you've been an educator, for a while. How has the education world changed and families changed in your experience as an educator?
Over the past, I would just say, let's say 10 years, I've seen a shift, somewhat of a shift in terms of how much time parents are spending with their kids, and how much they're engaged with what's happening in school. So 10 years ago, I saw a lot of family engagement, a lot of interest in what was going on in the day-to-day, a lot of questions on what can I do at home, what can we do to, reinforce this skill. And, as the years have gone by, that's become less and less. I don't know if it's because we've just become so much more into the, tech phase, but it's been bothering me. And, I don't know what we can do to kind of reverse it. I'm hoping things sort of go in like a circle. I'm hoping it will circle back. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like the 80s was the me generation, and then the 90s was like, oh, that was terrible. So I'm really hoping, because my daughter's in college now, and she will see some of this, and she'll say, wow, I don't want to be a parent like that. I want to be involved and engaged. And so I'm kind of hoping it's one of those things that it's like a cyclical thing, and the parent engagement's going to really come back. But that's one of the things that's really bothering me, and I really hope it changes. Yeah,
I agree with you. That was, and I don't get it, because I loved being engaged with my kids and with their school. And in fact, my wife is a teacher in the Boston Public Schools, and I remember before we had kids, she would come home from an open house, and she was at a school with 1,500 kids, and if they got 30 parents to show up on a parent night, they'd celebrate. And,
wow.
and so when our kids were born, I said, that's not going to happen. We're going to get involved. And my son's, when he was in kindergarten, the very first parent night, I was in Maine, performing at a county fair in Maine for a week, and the parent night was on a Wednesday, and I finished the show, and I popped in my car, and I drove back down to Boston to go to that parent night. I even had makeup still underneath the eyes. Talk about an introduction into the school. Parents like, what's that weird guy doing? But it was wonderful, because you get to know, it's so important you get to know the other kids in the class. And so that helps a lot when you're when you're trying to figure out what's going on in your kid's day and engaging in conversation. You know the teachers, you know the language that they're using in schools.
I think it's, like you said, it's so important that parents really take the time to get to know their child's teacher. Because for the most part, kids are with that teacher most of their day in many situations. And that teacher is really spending a lot of time with the child, and the homeschool connection is so important because you want to be on the same page. And the teacher is hopefully really looking out for your child and loving them like their own and taking care of them. And it's important that there's that open line of communication, and it's not just a drop off and a pickup, you know? I think it's really important.
Yeah. And I like that you talked about, you know, working in partnership with the teachers. One of the things that my wife has talked about over the years is she has been a teacher for 30 years. She noticed that idea that we're working together, that the parent and the teachers are on the same side, has really shifted to the point where there's a lot of parents who, when they do come to a meeting, they come with their fists up. Well, not literally, but where they come with, you know, hey, it's time to battle. And that I don't think that can help anybody.
No. I mean, and the teachers are, at least, you know, I can speak for our staff. They are here to love and care and nurture for these children, and they only want the best for them. And they see them hopefully almost every day. And if they see things that need to be addressed, if they see something that might be a learning issue or an emotional issue or a sensory issue, they're going to bring it up to the parent, not because they want the parent to feel bad or get defensive, but because they want to work with the parent to address it right away, so that we can figure out what strategies can we give the child so that we address it and fix it if something needs to be fixed or worked on. But it's hard as a parent sometimes to hear things, you know, hear that your child's having difficulties with something. But I think if parents go into the relationship with the teacher as an open one and a partnership, like you said, then there's nothing that they can't work on together. And ultimately, it's the best for the child. That's what, you know, it's not about my pride or your pride or I'm right or you're right. It's about what can we do to make sure that this child is academically and socially and emotionally supported and strong, going from preschool through the elementary school years. So
very important. And you've been, I imagine, I just want to ask, what does it feel like when you take a moment to take a breath and to realize that you've been a major part in developing and helping so many kids develop a love of learning and reading through your preschools?
Oh my gosh. It's very rare that I take the time to even think about it because I'm going 100 miles a minute. But when I do run into alumni students and they're in, you know, 4th, 5th grade, and I hear about the play that they're doing or the fact that they love science because we had that we do so much STEM here, or that they love reading because of all the books that we read, or that they've become, you know, amazing with art because they loved how we did so much, you know, an art program in our kindergarten. It's almost mind-boggling. I can't even believe it, but I feel like, you know, I did this for a reason because I thought that there was a real need for something special for kids to have a magical experience when they come to preschool, for them to, if they're here for the day, to be engaged and enlightened and challenged and feel good about themselves. And when I see those kids coming back reading, you know, as mystery readers, it's amazing. It's the greatest feeling. It's the greatest feeling. And it's even just a great feeling to see kids going from their little preschool prep class when they're 18 months and you see them graduate when they're 4 or 5 and they're strong and they're independent and they're ready to go to elementary school. I mean, we've done great work. It's great.
That's wonderful. I love this because, you know, you're expressing the same love that my wife has expressed and why she has been teaching for so long. And I just, you know, I think it's just so important that we, you know, celebrate the importance of parents and our influence on our kids' lives. But it's also really important, I think, to remember how important the teachers that our kids are spending so much time with our kids. And I just love giving a shout out and a pat in the back to teachers.
Yeah, nobody goes into teaching to become a millionaire. That's not why they do it. Mm-hmm. And parents really need to remember that. They go into teaching because they want to make a difference in a child's life.
Absolutely.
That's why. That is the only reason.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've had a great time speaking with you today. Let everybody know, because it's so much more. There's so many more books in your Miss Danielle's Preschool Bud series, and there's a lot to learn about your London school. So tell everybody where they can find you online, where they can learn more about Danielle Lindner and your books and your school.
Yeah, sure. They can go to two places, DanielleLindner.com, DanielleLindner.com, and that will connect them with the books. The books are also on Amazon. There's also 8 episodes of Miss Danielle's Preschool Bud TV show on Amazon Prime they can watch. And they can also go to LondonDaySchool.com to learn more about our preschool program.
That's wonderful. We've had such a great time speaking to the author of Tango, the little turtle whose parents are getting divorced, Danielle Lindner. Danielle, thanks so much for being back on the show.
Thank you so much. It was so much fun.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We'll be celebrating the first night of Hanukkah with our guest, Cheryl Haft. She has written a beautiful book called Goodnight Bubala. It's a beautiful and really fun parody of Goodnight Moon. That's the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you are the author of a fantastic children's book, you are probably surprised and maybe a little frightened to find out that you became, the minute that book was published, whether by a traditional publisher, an indie publisher, you became the marketing director for that book, the CEO of yourbook.com. Well, it can be really daunting trying to market a children's book, especially since you always thought of yourself as an author and not a marketer. Well, you don't have to do it alone. We've created a beautiful program that's helped many, many authors. It's called the Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read Program. We've assembled a team of evaluators, their parents, kids, and teachers. If they believe that your book is worthy of 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, it becomes a certified great read. And with that status comes a whole lot of fantastic tools that'll really help your book stand out from the crowd of books that are published every single month. Find out more by going to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Author Services button at the top of the page and learn how we can help you celebrate your fantastic children's book. We want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, we want to thank Danielle Lindner. Be sure to check out Tango, the little turtle whose parents are getting divorced. I want to thank my amazing producer, Fatima Khan, for all she does for the podcast. Don't miss her blog. You can find it at readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support that she gives me. I want to thank Augie the doggy for having my back here in the studio. And I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.